While Resident Evil Requiem is certainly among the games I'm most looking forward to next year, I also went into its new gameplay demo with a bit of caution. No doubt, since Resident Evil 7 reinvented the series once again, it had a splendid run, with the only arguable blunder being the RE3 remake. However, at this point it's been 8 years since RE7 and 6 years since the RE2 remake. Both modernized survival horror in a refreshing way, but since then Capcom has been treading water. I very much enjoyed Village for example, but the level design and the entire shtick with things like the unkillable stalker enemies confined to fenced off areas has become a little predictable and frankly peaked with the RE2 remake. Requiem seemed to return to that formula yet again when they unveiled the first gameplay. If you've played the opening parts of 7 in particular, the new Stalker section without any firearms will feel familiar. But Requiem, during my short time with it, felt like the next evolution of that concept. Village, compared to that, didn't feel as fresh, even though I enjoyed it too. Even in the sterile environment of a convention, Requiem still managed to give me the creeps, and when I looked at my colleagues, I wasn't alone. One major thing that differentiates this title from previous ones seems to be a new focus on light and darkness, which I found pretty effective. Once Grace wakes up in the hospital from the trailers, you will start in the dark, literally. Some areas are pitch black, which causes just the right amount of unease and confusion to set the stage, but without ever being too obtuse, because those areas are small enough to orient yourself, and almost too small to contain the new Stalker monster, because its unsettling design fills entire corridors. You'll soon find out that light will hurt the monster, which explains why from the get-go there's a weirdly high amount of light switches to interact with. But this focus on light and dark also creates a striking visual identity. Flickering lights and red emergency bulbs are kind of a horror trope, but here they really make full use of the RE engine on current consoles. The environments have that over-the-top gothic flair with big statues, angel keys and all that stuff, and they really know how to combine that imagery with the limited light sources. Now, although this time you can switch between the perspectives through the menu, third person still feels a little tacked on, just like the DLC for Village, which wasn't originally designed around both perspectives. Just like in that game, at least during this part of Requiem, cutscenes are always shown in first person. Grace's walking speed looks also a little slow from behind, but I will say that I actually found that endearing. The animations remind me of those PS2 era survival horror games, so this actually works for me and I hope they keep it. But I can see how some people might find it unnatural. I appreciate that Requiem stays true to its hardcore roots. Again, you might not be able to orient yourself right away, but that's actually a good thing in a horror game. You're supposed to feel trapped in a labyrinth of death. The monster is slow, but it will eat you fast if you aren't careful. There are a few familiar elements, but they purposefully change things up so veterans don't feel too safe. Again, it doesn't feel like just a rehash despite being familiar. At one point you need to find a screwdriver to progress, and there's only one room it could be, but once you find the obvious drawer, it's empty. Then you finally see the hidden drawer underneath a dead zombie, but it's empty again. By the time you finally find the real hiding spot above, the stalker might already be on its way. Yes, there are jump scares, but it's the rest of the game that builds the tension to make them work. I thought the stalker concept was played out, but again, this feels like the ultimate version of this RE gameplay style. The game could totally change after this one section. There were rumors that Leon would get a second campaign with an open map you'd explore using a buggy. To be honest, I hope those rumors aren't true, and that the game remains focused on tight areas like this. Requiem is actually the first game led by the same director as RE7. I appreciated that game for bringing back horror to the series in a very intense way. Back then it was the first time in a long while that I truly felt relief upon finding a safe room. But it's not controversial to say that it lost steam in the second half, which felt pretty unfinished. So I find it intriguing that the creator of RE7 returns and perhaps completes his full vision of what Resident Evil should look like in his mind, but now with more experience with Capcom's RE engine.